Hello, welcome to this next edition of Inspiring Money Stories on the Manifestation Coach podcast. We're here live today with Sarah Leather, who is a simplicity strategist. Now, just to say, we have had some big tech issues today. So, unfortunately, I'm streaming to YouTube. I'm not streaming where I normally do to Facebook. So, apologies if you haven't been able to join from Facebook. Hopefully, you've been able to join from YouTube if you want to come along and join us live. So, for those people in the audience who may not know you, Sarah, can you please let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Hi, I'm delighted to be here. Despite tech issues, it's great to be experience this amazing time with you, Keri. And yeah, who am I? We've been connected for many, many years, Keri, and we've got a very similar background in places we've lived and things we studied and our paths and everything. So I've always felt like our relationship is very serendipitous like that.
Mm.
And yeah, I have been running my business for a minute. Like I started running a business in 1990s, 33 years ago. And that was when I was moving from being a nurse to being a training as a naturopath and a homeopath and nutritionist. And it was I launched straight into, even when I was a student, running a practice and running groups and doing all sorts of things, and very quickly learned that I had a bit of a knack of creating clients, of getting clients. And it was like we moved from, like, I was living in Perth in Australia at the time, but I'd married an Irishman, so we were hopping between Australia and Ireland for a few years in each place. And each time we moved, I set up a new practice. And no matter where I worked or what I did, was fully booked usually within a month or two. And people started noticing, and people started asking me questions about that, because I often worked in clinics with 8, 10, 12 other practitioners. And there'd usually be a case of a couple of us were busy and the rest of them were kind of twiddling their thumbs for big chunks of time. And I realized, even before, like, 33 years ago, there was no internet, there was no social media. And I had grown up with parents who ran their own businesses, and I used to pay attention quite a lot. And I realized that, like, there were certain things that I was doing that what made a big difference. And I thought they were just really little things, and I couldn't figure out, like, why other people weren't doing them. Then I realized, like, it's human nature. Not everybody's going to do the same thing. And I started noticing that people, when they maybe had an open spot in their calendar, or they had a cancellation, they either stayed at home and didn't even come into the clinic, or they went for coffee, or they'd flick through a magazine or something. But I always saw any space as an opportunity. I would write letters to local GPs and other practitioners telling them who I was and what I was doing. I would contact local newspapers and see, like, any chance I can write you an article about this. I also specialized quite early and chose an area of, like, natural fertility and hormones and menopause, and that all really helped as well. And as I went on through my practice, I decided, and it was back in 2008, I realized I was it might be because I'm a Virgo, but I realized I was kind of bossy. I was kind of I'd always been told I was kind of bossy. If I was a man, I'd probably be told I had great leadership skills, but I was always being told I was bossy. But I realized I was just very advice driven. I was always giving people this big to-do list of what to do. And so I went and studied. I'd come across coaching. I'd done a lot of personal growth in my 20s. And so by this stage, I was just like, oh, there's this thing called coaching, which sounds very much like that personal growth stuff I was doing way back then. I thought, this sounds like fun. I'll do this just to help me to coach people rather than tell them what to do. And I just fell head over heels in love with coaching. I was just like, I just want to coach. I'm born to coach. And I started doing quite a lot of life coaching. And I got, like, really successful in doing the life coaching. But what I really wanted to do was business coaching. I knew, like, I was being asked all these questions about a practice, and I just, like, really wanted to just help people with their businesses. So it took several years to kind of turn the boat around and move over towards being sort of exclusively working as a business coach. And it was and it was all very slow. It was not. I always joke that my overnight success took 7 years, that it took 7 years to really totally transition and to start making decent money, to get to those, like, 3 to 5K months as mostly online business coach.
Mm.
So that's kind of my very, very, basic backstory.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that you've been on such a growth journey. I think that's something that's been really inspiring to me, to see all the different kind of changes that you've made and the pivots that you've made with different seasons that you've been through. Because I think we've been in contact now over 10 years, maybe just around 10 years. It's been a really long time that I've known you, and I've seen you gone through different evolutions with your business coaching, and yeah, it's been amazing to watch. It gives me a lot of inspiration as well. And I remember actually one of the first things, because we've had lots of different variations in our relationship as well. You've been my business coach, and and we've been friends, and I've worked with you as well, coaching in your community, and so it's been amazing. But I remember when you were my business coach with that hat on, one of the first things that you said was, at any opportunity when you've got a block of time in your calendar and you're not seeing a client, that's when you do your marketing, that's when you do your money making activity. So when you mentioned that thing about being in clinic, seeing the people who didn't have a very busy practice at that time, they're flicking through magazines and you're writing to GPs, and it just reminded me that that was one of the first things that I learned from you. So it was a great piece of advice.
Yeah, and it is those habits that we have now. I call them daily non-negotiables. I'm just like, the first thing you do every day before you do anything else is basically those things that are going to grow your audience, nurture your audience, create conversations that create conversions into clients. Like, they need to be done every day, no matter what. And then, of course, there's your client work and the admin and all the other stuff. But if you stop doing those, you stop creating clients. So yeah, I used to say, like, yeah, grab those sort of opportunities when you can, because I ran a busy practice and I had 4 kids and we were always moving all over the place, and there was a lot going on, but prioritizing those money making activities is so important. Very
Absolutely.
easy to overlook them and say, I'm not in the mood, or I don't have time today. But, like, then you'll wonder where your clients are coming from.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I also like to think of this when it comes to the manifestation equation, as this is your aligned action, right? Like, this is you taking the action, which is completely in alignment with your end goal. And that might be a money goal, that might be like your business size goal, or whatever it is, but that's a piece of aligned action as well. So if you can prioritize that, it
Yeah.
reaps so many rewards from a manifestation point of view as well. Absolutely. So we're here to talk about your inspiring money story. And I remember you posted something in one of the groups that we're in where you spoke. I'm going to paraphrase this, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it was something along the lines of, you've gone slow and steady over the years. You haven't always made like the big figures in business, like really quickly, like, a lot of people talk about online, but you've had slow and consistent growth. And then you took a quantum leap. Can you talk a little bit about that side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is like, I'm always using the tortoise and the hare analogy, the old story of, like, the hare just burned along and realized he was so far ahead, he sat down, fell asleep, and the tortoise plodded along. And I really do think slow and steady is the recipe for successful business. I will add into that one little caveat, and it's what I cover on my I do CEO days for clients sort of once a quarter, is that, like, at least once a quarter we have to turn into from a tortoise to a giraffe and have that big long neck, so we can have a good look around and see what the path is ahead, because when you're down there in the weeds, you don't really know what's coming or anything, and planning for that next thing. So yeah, not always a tortoise, but a lot of time it's fine to have little sprints every once in a while as well, but we just can't sustain that all the time. My clients that have what would look like overnight success, where I've lots of clients that have gone from 0 to 100K in a year, or 200K in 2 years, but they are one I'm forever trying to get them to slow down a bit, because they will burn out if they keep pushing and hustling and not not taking a week off or whatever. So the first time I had a bit of a quantum leap was when I was on a constant sort of burnout cycle, when I had a full practice, like the first stage of business is like filling up your client slots. That's stage number one. And I had been at that stage for like the best part of 20 years of having this full practice. And it's exhausting selling single sessions. Keri, you've done it in the past too.
Yeah.
Of selling all these sessions. It's great, but then there's like people, there's all the admin of people changing and people wanting receipts and people losing things and people wanting extra remedies, or like there's a lot of management that goes on behind running this busy practice. And I was forever on the edge of burnout, and I really was at my wit's end. I was looking at like, maybe I'd be better off getting a job. I even looked at going back to nursing. I thought like, I just want there to be more ease to earning money. I loved my work, but I was also finding it, I was doing work that I wasn't 100% aligned to anymore. So what I just started really looking into business and studying business, and I did this course around VIP days and VIP packages, and I basically changed my business model overnight. I made a video saying that I was on the edge of burnout. I didn't want to stop doing the work I was doing, but I couldn't keep going the way I was. So I had changed what's called my business model. So I was no longer offering single sessions. I was going to be working with a 3-month package, and working with a lot less people. So it was more intensive work with a lot less people. And of course, that came with a higher price point. And I put it out there to my audience, and I sold the first couple of packages quite quickly. And I went from having maybe 30 or so clients a week to working with, I sold one of these packages every week for 30 weeks in a row. It was my manifestation. It was like I set the intention that within a week I was going to sell the first one, and that every week I was going to have a minimum of 3 sales calls and sell 1 package every week. And I did it like 30 weeks in a row. And so I ended up, I basically doubled my income working less than half of the client-facing hours. And that was a massive breakthrough for me. It was just like, oh, there's so much ease with this. And I always said the first step is to, just to look at your business model and see, is it really serving where you're at this age and stage? Because we're allowed to change. We don't have to keep working the same way all the time. And then after that, after a while, I really started feeling like that heavy feeling started again. And I recognize that now, and you'll know this so well, Keri, because of the work you do, but I was going out of alignment with that. Like, I think that's what it was, that heavy feeling, that pulling down feeling. And so I started looking again, and I'm like, well, maybe it's time to run a group program. And then that's when I created my group program on VIP days and VIP packages. And I think you were in that very first program I did around about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
Yes, and then I did one around signature systems in business, and then I created my first mastermind that you were in. And and then that really changed things so much when I started sort of basically leveraging and scaling with groups, going one-to-many from going from the one-to-one. And that was when I had my first, that first mastermind that I sold was my first. I remember doing a post a few years ago saying like, the first 500K, not 500K, the first 500 a month you make, whether it's $500 or euro or pounds, it doesn't really matter, is the hardest money you'll ever earn. Yeah. It's so hard getting that. And it took me years to get to that 500 a month outside of my clinic in online income. Yeah. And then a year later, I had a 5K month, which was just life-changing. And then I launched my first mastermind, and I had a 50K sales month. And that at the time was huge. And then 3 months later, I did the same thing. I launched another mastermind. But I just put my head down and got on and worked with my clients. And I kind of stopped marketing. That's when I learned, never stop marketing. Always be marketing, always be selling. No matter where you're at in business, always have to be doing those activities. And I learned then that, like, okay, I need something that it's okay to have these little launches a couple of times a year, but also need to be selling each month on an ongoing basis as well. And that's what I really recommend, is having, maybe doing these little, what I call soft launching or simple launching a couple of times a year, but also having sales every week. I mean, you can sell every day if you want to. And that made a huge difference. So that was that. That was all great, and I kind of kept doing the selling. I probably had a small handful of one-on-one clients all the way through, and sold masterminds and different groups for over the last kind of 10 years. And then last year, it kind of started happening again. I started feeling that kind of heavy feeling, but what I don't just kind of ignored it. I just like, oh, I'm I'm menopausal, I'm this, I'm that, it's all good. I've got a good business model. Like, I don't want to do anything else. And then I got COVID in June last year, and I was quite sick, but I got over it. But every 6 weeks afterwards, I got sick. I had like all the symptoms came back, and they were weird symptoms, so I knew it was the same thing. And I'd have to go to bed for a few days. And after it happened 3 or 4 times, family members and people, like there's a lot of doctors in the family and everything, they're just like, "Yes, so you need to go to a long COVID clinic. That's not right." So they're like, "It's weird." And I'm just like, "No." And I knew it wasn't that, like, it was just my body telling me, "Hey, something's off. Something is off." And I'm really pleased I was getting something I would recover from. That's great. I know not everybody is so fortunate. And I just thought, well, the last time it happened was in December last year, and I was like, "I'm listening." And I remember sitting up in an armchair over there that looks out over the field and the ocean here in West Cork, and I just sat there with big blank pieces of paper. I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready." And just the words like radical simplicity came out of, like, from somewhere, and I just started writing about it, and I just looked at what I thought was a simple business model and a simple way of marketing. I'm just like, "Okay, I'm always talking about the 80/20 rule. What if I got rid of 80% of what I was doing?" Because last year I was doing quite a lot of paid masterclasses. I was working with 2 different coaches that were doing that, and I was just kind of copying their business model, and not really copying, because it was pretty much the same thing. But I went from free masterclasses to offering paid masterclasses, but for each one there was like a landing page and email sequences and all the things and sales pages, and I thought, like, what if I stopped doing all of that and I just let it be really, really simple? I thought, like, okay, I'm going to launch a new program, and it's going to be called Simplicity. And I cut out everything. I did a few posts, and that in January I had my 101K sales month, and I had pretty much the same in February then as well. And I had 100K months over the years, but there'd been a once off, and then there'd be months of delivering that. So it was different because it was scalable and repeatable. And it was just like letting it be simple was the message. Like, it's safe for it to be much simpler. And it's had an amazing effect on pretty much everything.
In what way was it? What were the impacts of that then for you?
The impact of it was, I noticed it because I have this amazing VA assistant, Liz, and when I went to say, like, "Oh, I'm doing a free training on Wednesday at 12," and she would just go whip up a landing page and whip up I said, "No, we're not doing any of that anymore." And I realized how many steps that she was doing, but also it was all my energy as well, because I'd go, "Oh, I have to edit that, and I have to edit that," and she'd make Canva graphics for everything, and I'd be like, "Oh, I don't like that photo there. Let's move it to that one." And even though that was all great, I realized how unnecessary most of it was. So it just freed up my energy so much. And I realized, like, on an identity level, that's what had to shift first in December. Like, November and December last year were 2 of my lowest income months that I've had for years. And I had to really get into the energy and into the identity of someone who was having, high high income months who wasn't being depleted, that like that it was
Mm.
sustainable, because it's got to be my three top values, like simplicity, spaciousness, and sustainability. Like it's just like it has to be that. And I'm just like, I just kept saying to myself, well, who who does she need to be? Who do I need to be
Mm.
to be that woman? And I'd totally let go of the attachment to having a seven-figure business, to having 100K months, because I think I've been on some level striving for that for years because of the communities I'm in and the masterminds that I've been in and all the investments I've made. I'm just like, well, this is obviously where I need to go and what
Mm.
I'm destined for. But I just let go of that. There was a lot of surrender. There was a lot of surrender to like whatever. And even now, I'm going through that now, even though I still have really good income months. I'm just like, I don't need it. I don't need it. Do I?
Mm.
Maybe, maybe not. And it's like just really letting go to the attack. The only thing I really want is my clients to get good results. Like that's
Mm.
all. That's all and that I'm replenishing all the time, and that it stays simple. And as soon as it starts getting hard, and like nobody else is making it more complicated for me, that's I'm the one that does that. For me, it's just about really noticing where I go back to those old habits of thinking there's like possibly some worthiness attached to having all those steps and all the things that aren't really because like the more steps you have, the more things can go wrong, the more
Mm.
things don't work. But now, like when I do a live class now or something, I just hit the go live and do it, and it all works really well. And it's just it's for me, it was just really looking at like what are the characteristics of that person, of her who has that identity of creating a lot more income, a lot more impact, but in a really simple, spacious way.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, the who do I need to be question. I think that's the key one here, really, isn't it? So for anyone who's listening along here and thinking there's something I'm working towards, there's something I want to manifest, the question is, who do you need to become in order to create that and receive that in your life and allow that to happen?
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get tripped up by that. They're like, yeah, I get that, but what does that really mean? And I
Yeah.
think the key to knowing what that really means is like, what are the characteristics?
Yes.
What
Yeah.
are the characteristics of her? What are they? And for me, it was, you know, putting putting my own self-care first, and then when I said I was working,
Mm.
and not kind of um, being fully engaged with whatever I was doing.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
not and having a simple strategy and staying with it.
Mm.
I've had when I look back, I was always whenever and I know a lot of my clients have this as well. They're just like, "Well, I love writing, I get bored really easily." So that would mean changing program names, changing business models, changing things
Yeah.
all the time to keep yourself entertained. But your
Yeah.
business is not Netflix. It does not need to entertain you. It needs to create income and impact, like it doesn't need, it's there to be of service and create money. That's what it's there for.
Mhm.
You need to have other things outside of your life. So for me, I really like my aspiration now is 3K in profit. I had 3K easily in income, but in profit
Mhm.
and in 3 hours a day. 3K in 3 hours a day. And I have that a lot of the time, and I work 3 weeks a month. I have my last week every month is a CEO week, and I highly encourage anybody to step into that. Another thing on the identity level is just like I've been doing it for years of just journaling. I'm the kind of
Mm.
woman who has a week off each month to do the CEO work on her business and brain and play and rest and create and whatever she wants. Um,
Mm.
I'm the kind of woman who works 3 to 5 hours a day, making 333K. I'm the kind of woman who, and it really helps to bring out what you want in a gentle way that you think like, yeah, I'm that kind of woman.
Amazing. And I love that you're bringing so much clarity around that vision. You know, it's not just the, I want a 10K month, or you know what I mean? It's like, no, the 10K, but, or the 33K in your case, but I'm working 3 hours a day, or I'm working 3 days a week, or, you know, and sometimes when I'm talking about the vision aspect with my clients in manifestation, it's also like, as well, you know, who are you working with? You know, are they the really demanding clients who don't follow through with what, you know, the things that you suggest and then don't get the results, or, you know, or they pay you late, or are they the people who are ready, willing, and, you know, able to take action right now? They are very happy to pay your prices and they put the work in and they get the results, you know. So like stuff like that, it brings out so much more richness, I think, in the vision that we're manifesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's you're absolutely spot on. It really is. It's not just create this money at any cost. And that was all part of the identity. It's not simple, it's not spacious, it's not sustainable if there are people that are going to bleed you dry. Like nothing is worth that. I'd rather get a job like than have that. Because that's not abundant. That's not, yeah. So it's about keeping it simple and having it, really, I was speaking to some clients about, earlier today about, like, having 2 numbers, really looking at how much money do you need to make each month? You know,
Mm,
what's the number you need to make, and how much then do you want to make? And how much does your dream lifestyle actually cost? Because
mm,
I could say I want 7 figures, I don't need 7 figures, so do I actually want it? I've known several people particularly over the last 12 to 24 months who have got to 7 figures and haven't enjoyed their business at that level because they've it's taken too much energy and time and have come back to around 300K in a
mm,
much simpler way and have let go of lots of parts of their business because they know, like, I've got 100K profit in that. 100K profit is more than I need for my life and everything that I have, and including investments and everything else. And that's on top of their wage, so that's like extra.
yeah.
And the and there's so much abundance in that. So it's like looking at those numbers, and then once you have that number, what do you need to create? So for me,
Mm,
33K a month is not difficult, and it feels really spacious, and it feels, really simple, and it feels really sustainable as well. But when I start looking at 100K months, yes, I know I can do it, and I
mhm,
can create that. But and I know myself, I'm not going to create 100K months on repeat until it feels simple and spacious and sustainable. And for me, that means having, maybe a bigger team, or although I think you can keep your team really small and tight and really effective. But for me, I haven't stepped into that identity of doing it every month like that. But I
mm,
know that's because I'm not sure I want to. And I'm quite happy with where I am, and just maybe I'm just gonna look at, like I keep just saying, 30 to 50K months is my sweet spot,
mhm,
and it is a sweet spot for a lot of people. But I know there is, and I know it's possibly more my ego that wants the 100K months on repeat than anything else. But just to, I've always said, like, I just wanna see the woman I become along the way of to getting there, but do I need to do that, and do I want to?
yeah.
But I can do it, and I did it. I did it a couple of times, and I'm just like, do I really desire to do that again? I don't know. And if I do, well, then I've really got to work on that identity of getting there and staying there.
Mm, absolutely. So it's like you've got to really know your reasons and love your reasons, and then really check in with yourself. You know, is this something I want from an ego level, or is it truly from a soul alignment level? Because I think we have so much conditioning that we've taken on over the years, haven't we? Whether it's from family or society. And then now in the world of social media and like some of the stuff that you've alluded to here, I mean, you hear people talking about, oh, I've got this 100K business, 6 figures, 7 figures,
8 figures.
8 figures, lots of talk of 8 figures. And it's like, but is that really what I want? What do I really want genuinely deep down? And then getting back in touch with that and creating from there.
Yeah, and you've got to really look at, like, one guy I know who like basically closed down his 7-figure business because he was running several high-level masterminds and charging people 50K and everything. And he's basically closed it all down, and he has something like 10 clients that he works with for 6 months that pay him 15K, and that's it. And he brings in like 300K a year. And he said, like, half of that's, well, more than half of that's profit, because he's got no team. He's like, they just have their booking links, they pay me. And like he said, I coach 10 hours a week, and the rest of the time I'm off.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's a lot of talk about that, your business has to be scalable and it has to look a certain way, but it doesn't. Everybody gets to create what they want to create. And it's figuring out what you actually want, which is the most challenging part for most people. Once you do really know what you want, would then work on, well, who is she? What's the identity of her to get what I really do desire? But I think a lot of people get very confused themselves with what they actually want.
Yes.
And you can't manifest it, create it, whatever, when you're really got mixed messages maybe every day. You could start in the morning wanting one thing and go to bed at night wanting something else, because a lot of us are highly sensitive, and we can be very impressionable from what all the things we're surrounded by. Like, there's a lot of negative stuff online right now about business coaches, which is why I call myself something else. And it's and people calling people out and pointing the finger at people and everything. And I'm just like, can you just stop, please? Because that's not, well, I know that's not the identity that I want. I don't want to be the finger pointing identity, because I think we just lead by example, lead by getting our clients really good results. And another thing I want to say, like, there is a lot of smoke and mirrors out there as well. So anybody that's feeling like comparing themselves, seeing somebody, oh, they've got a 7-figure business, oh, that must be a dream. I know several 7-figure businesses that are absolutely broke. So they have more clients leaving. They have they spending more on, some people spend 100,000 a month on Facebook ads.
Exactly.
And it's the reality of it for some people, particularly that are in the big launch cycles. So don't compare. You can have more profit at 60 or 80,000 than you can at like 600 or 800,000. It is the reality. I've seen it time and time again. So I just think, like, we just all need to stay in our own lane and decide what we really want, what gives us, what money would give us the lifestyle, including what you want to contribute or what you want to do. And really, I'm sure you talk about this, Keri, about like separating yourself from your business. Like, you're not your business.
Yes.
Like, you are your own person. Your business is one thing that you do. Your identity is not your business's identity. Your business has a separate identity. And sometimes we need to just sort of like do some energetic cord cutting or something between yourself and your business, so that, because you may have heard me, I'm sure you've heard me saying it before, but like, when my business is going really well, like when I had that in January, when I had the 101K months, people are just like, oh my God, that's amazing. How does it feel? I'm like, it doesn't feel a whole lot different than a 10K month or my first 1K month. It just, and I learned a very long time ago not to go too high when things are going well, and then I don't go too low when things are going through a downturn, because businesses will go through fluctuations. It shouldn't be too much of a roller coaster, but we can see global economic trends. There will be fluctuations all the time in the market. So of course, businesses will go through that as well. And it's not a reflection on us or our worthiness. It is just what happens. And when it goes down, we'll come up again. If you just stay in the room and keep doing, always be marketing, always be selling, and it will absolutely come back up again.
Absolutely. And I love the the concept as well in manifestation of your energetic minimum and maximum. So you don't always have to be going to that exact number. It's like anywhere in this range would be great. Wouldn't it be wonderful if it was this? But actually, I don't go lower than this. And when I implemented this energetic minimum and maximum, it was only like within 6 months that I was getting right up to the top end, and I was never dipping below. So like when you raise your level of belief, but then you're okay with like a little bit of a give and take, maybe it's like 5 or 10K, within that range. And you're like, that's fine. I can handle that. So whatever, wherever you're at in your business, you can decide what that minimum and maximum is. And it's a really great concept to bring in. So you don't have to beat yourself up if you don't get to that maximum number that you're always achieving and striving for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's so much out there about like best month ever. Every month doesn't have to be a best month ever. And when the clients come to me and they say like, I've had a terrible month, I'm just like, how's the last quarter been? How's the last 12 months been compared to the 12 months before that? And, same like your energetic minimum and maximum, just look at it in a broader sense and don't get too caught up in the drama of the ups and downs, because it's really normal.
Totally. And you know what? I would rather have consistent 2K months for 6 months and have one 10K month, right? So this is where your whole tortoise analogy, I think, comes in, because really over time, if you're getting that consistency and you're getting really comfortable at that level, and actually you're getting more money over the course of that time, rather than beating yourself up because you didn't reach that really high number. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you might as well go for that. And actually that reminds me, as we were talking, when you were talking about that slow and steady, tortoise and hare analogy, something that I remember you taught me really early on that I implemented with my manifestation practices was looking at your money goal and striving for 10% more every month. And I remember I had a spreadsheet that calculated it for me. So it was like, well, last month I earned this much. And then the next month it would add on, plus 10%, plus 10%, plus 10%. That's what I was aiming for. And that was really slow and steady. And you know what? More often than not, it happened. As long as I was doing the marketing and selling that you were talking about, it can be as simple as that. And you don't have to go for these huge numbers all the time. But like, if you do want a quantum leap, we know it's available, it's there for you, but work on the slow and steady, like to get your foundations in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you look at the statistics around business, like it's really pretty freaky. Like something like 80 to 90% will be closed in 3 years. Like that is pretty bad odds. So having quantum leaps, is that really the goal, or is the goal staying in profit,
Right.
and being able to live off your business and have a little bit extra, and then, yeah, absolutely be available for the quantum leaps and things. But I think we need to be a little bit real as well about what's possible, because at the moment, you need to increase steadily to keep up with inflation, if nothing else.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah.
Seriously, and that's okay as well. But it is totally there for you. Another thing I'd want to add in there, because it kind of goes against what makes sense, but it can be easier to sell at higher prices than lower prices. A lot of people think, well, when times are tough, when there's a recession or something, we'll just offer low end things. And it was part of last year, before I had that big quantum leap, was me selling lower priced sort of masterclasses, and the amount of effort that went into selling things at a low price. Yeah, people that invest anything in you are far more likely to invest at a higher price later, but it's disproportionate, the amount of energy. So anybody that's thinking like, I don't know why, like some of the gurus will say like everyone should have a passive income stream. But the amount of work that goes into a passive income stream for the return on that is it's very often pittance if you worked out an hourly rate for that. And if you've ever tried to sell like ebooks or anything like that, you'd know what I mean, or lower price courses and things. Whereas if you go and sell really good quality group programs, masterminds, really good courses at a decent price, one-on-one packages, etc., you are going to have a much better return on investment for your time and energy. Your clients are going to do better. And it means like just marketing and speaking to the people that actually are looking for help, looking for a solution to their problem. And it just works so much better than trying to get those small little sales.
Absolutely. Oh, I've made that mistake before. You know, you think you make a course, you pop it on your website, all the marketing that has to go behind it. I mean, you might get the odd person that buys, but really, actually, you need quite a lot of marketing behind some of these
You
things
need
that
a massive marketing machine behind passive income.
do.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
exactly.
even when somebody who like maybe sells courses on Udemy or something and is bringing in a few hundred a month from that, they can be spending several hours a day on, you know, to get their rankings up, replying to
Yeah,
people's questions and stuff when they've paid them. Like, you know, somebody's bought a course for like $11 and they've got like $2 or $3 of that, and they're having to listen, you know, answer their questions and everything for that. And it's just like, that makes me want to cry too.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Like, you're a professional, charge decent money, help people get really awesome results. People who can't afford to work with you, just create really good free content like this that
That's a
people
podcast.
get
Yeah.
something from as they go, you know, proceed in business.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I have loved talking all of these things today, and I think there's so much great value in here for people who might be at all sorts of different stages of business. Actually, there's so many gems, and and I just want to recap something that you were saying before as well about like, it's possible for us to create whatever reality that we want. Essentially, is what I'm getting from your story. You've had so many different iterations, you've had so many different seasons in business. You've tried things, you've learned from them, you learned what you liked and you kept that stuff. You didn't keep what you didn't want to continue doing. And you've just been really kind of dynamic and agile, I think, over the years in terms of how you want your business to look, and you're happy to release things and let them go. So I think, if you're in a place where you're not 100% sure of where it is that you want to go, I think, Sarah's story here is a real inspiring kind of example of what's possible. You can ask yourself these questions: how much money do I actually need? How much money do I actually want? On top of that, what would my world look like if I was to create a business that would actually bring me that money? How often do I want to work? Who do I want to work with? How many hours am I doing? Where am I working from? And then just try something. And and Sarah's just been such a great example of, and if it doesn't work, drop what's not working, change it up, figure it out as you go along. So do you have any thoughts on that little recap I've done on, your story that you've shared today?
Yeah, you make it sound like it was all very strategic and planned out, but really, I'm
Yeah.
not just as much as anybody else, and just know it doesn't have to be like, success is not linear, like, and know
Yeah.
that there's going to be a lot of ups and downs along the way, and that's all good. It's just like, stay in the room. Yeah, I think you did a great recap there, but I just want to add in, like, this, don't look, don't put anybody, I learned a very long time ago, don't put anyone on a pedestal. And if
Yeah.
anybody says to me, oh, I'm having a fangirl moment speaking to you, I've been following you for years, I'm like, please don't, no fangirl, please. Just like, we're all the same, we're all on this journey together. Some of us have just been at it for longer than anyone else, so that's why I quite often share that I started my business 33 years ago, and people are like, oh, okay. Okay. And nobody, that virtually, like, overnight success does not happen virtually with anybody. If you look at their backstory, they have been doing other things. Even if this current
Yes.
business is new, they have run other businesses or worked in a corporate job where they were doing very similar things. So it's not like they're not nobody. Very few people. And when clients say to me, oh, I feel like such a newbie, they're like, you're not new. You've been
Yeah,
working towards this for decades. So
exactly.
just be wherever you are, stay in the room, and yeah, keep showing up and work with Keri on your manifesting, because she's amazing.
Oh, thank you. And I love, that's what I really love about you. And I think that's why I've hired you so many times over the years, is because you are so authentic. You see these stories of, oh, I'm an overnight success online. And it's like, actually, when you scratch under the surface, there's all those transferable skills that people don't even attribute to their success, what they've built up over time. And I remember when I first came into homeopathy, and like, I knew how to build websites. So I was able to create a blog, and other people were really struggling with that, and because of my experience, I was able to just get up and running, and everyone's like, oh my God, you're amazing. I'm like, no, just I had transferable skills. That's all. Like, we collate that over time, don't we? So I think it's really good to recognize that no one's further ahead than another person necessarily,
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think manifestation comes into it so much. I mean, like, so many times along my journey. There were things that happened, like I think serendipity is one of my favorite words because of things that just happened. I mean, like when I had my fourth baby here in Ireland, I was in a room, the shed, and there was a lovely woman next to me who I didn't really take any notice of what she did or anything, but it was maybe a year later, I had decided, because we live in the country, as you know, sort of like an hour from the city, and it was really hard trying to work around 4 young children here. So I thought, like, I'll get a room in the city and I'll go up every Saturday and do a full day's work in a clinic. And, that'll be as much as a week's earning. I used to see 10 people on Saturdays. But when I decided to go up there, I went up, rented the room and everything. I'm like, okay, where are the people coming from? And I'm just like, and because I was so busy with the kids, I'm just like, I didn't do my usual writing articles or doing anything. And it was like 3 weeks before I was going up for my first day, and I didn't have anyone booked in because I didn't have any clients in the city. I'd had a handful down here, but and I got a phone call, and I was just like, they're coming. I don't know where from, but they're coming. And I got a phone call from this woman who was in the bed next to me, and turns out she's an editor of a health publication in the city. And she goes, "Oh, I remember you saying you help women with fertility. Can we write an article and get a contribution from me?" It is a big 2-page spread. I was booked out for 6 months. And that kind of thing happened over and over. But they're also like that. I wrote an ebook on natural fertility, and I said, one of my friends was into PR, and I said, like, what would you suggest? And she goes, "Oh, hand over, like, give me this, this, and this, and I'll do a press release." I didn't even know what it meant at the time. Next day, on national television, like these kind of things. I got booked out for 2 years after that. Like, I made a lot of money. So these kind of things happened a lot, but they happened because I had sort of certain things in place. I had the belief, but I also took the action. And even if I hadn't got the phone call from and the press kind of thing, I would have done something else.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's just like you need, as you know, the belief, the manifestation, and the inspired action together. Create. If you do just all the action without anything else, you're just going to burn out, and it's not going to be much fun. But you do, yeah.
And if you sit at home meditating and doing all your journaling and feeling really great, but you're not taking any action, no one's going to know what's going on, and they can't necessarily get in touch with you. So it's the marrying of the two together really creates magic, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. Can we finish with a quick little story, manifestation story?
Absolutely, please.
Yeah. My daughter's been living away in Amsterdam for a couple of years, and she came back, and she's going to a college in the next town. It's like an hour's drive away, but she doesn't have a car and there's no public transport. So she goes, like, I have to have a house there. And I have a friend who's doing the same course, and everybody was just like, no accommodation there. Like my son and his partner tried to get a house there. They are both doctors. They could not get a house there. And they're like, students, forget it. With no jobs, forget it. I messaged a friend who lived in the same town. I said, if you hear of any like rental properties over the winter, she said, no effing way. Not a hope in. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I'm going to get a house. I'm going to get a house. Anyway, this one house came up, and we went and looked at it and everything. He said, like, I've got lots of other viewings or anything. She said, that's my house. That's my house. And anyway, it was he said, I'll let you know in the next 2 days. And 2 days went by, and I was just about to leave the house. And she's like, I really believe in getting a house. I said, Rosie hasn't messaged you. I said, I think you should send him a message. And she said, no, I'm just in the belief it's going to happen. And I said, Rosie, it's half a year. I know, she's 22. And it's, but it was 5:30 on Friday. And I said, he said he'd let you know Thursday or Friday. I said, send him a message. Tell him you'd loved his house. Tell him no matter what his decision, you'd like to know one way or the other. And thirdly, that, reaffirm that you're happy with this condition that he'd said, and just remind him of that. Because and she sent she sent the text off anyway. I drove down the road, and she's ringing me, and she goes, I got the house. And it was just amazing. She said, like, because as I walked out of the house, I just turned around. I said, number one thing about sales is the fortune is in the follow-up. I said, if you don't follow up, most people don't follow up. And she had sent one message the day before. She said, only 40% of people follow up once, something like 90% of people never follow up after that. And I'm like, fortune is in the follow-up. And it's just like, the belief is great. Her belief was fantastic. And he said, thanks for the text. I've been really busy at work. I need to sort this right now. Okay, it's yours.
Yes, because she's top of mind. He probably thought she ticks a lot of boxes. Maybe he likes her, thinks to be a good fit. And she's top of mind now. So, yeah.
She appeared in front of him. Yeah. And that's like it is. I said, it's not, the belief is incredible, but the action needs to go with it. I said, if you had no belief and you sent that text from that place of like, I'm never getting it anyway, so there's no point, it wouldn't have landed. Like, you might not have even seen it. So, yeah, I wanted to finish that story because I don't think it matters what we're manifesting. It's like, it's all possible, but decide what you want. She's like, I want that so much, and I'm willing to believe it. And as I drove off, I said, how are you going to feel when he rings to tell you got it? She goes, I'm going to feel excited, I'm going to feel grounded, I'm going to feel this, and I'm going to feel that, and everything. So stay with that feeling and go do something amazing. Walk away from your phone. And she said she hardly even heard it ringing because she'd walked away, and I'm just like, surrender, let it go. And so
oh, that is so amazing. I love that. The fortune is in the follow-up. So there we go. So Sarah, if anyone's listening in today and they love what they're hearing and they want to learn more about what you do, what is it that you're doing at the moment, and where can they find out more?
What is it that I do at the moment? Okay, I run a couple of programs. One is a marketing program for women that are looking for sort of consistent 3 to 5K months in business, and there's fantastic women in that program, and Keri is one of our guest coaches who comes in there as well, called Whole Heart Marketing. And then I have my Simplicity, that's I broke it into 2 programs now. Simplicity Academy for women working towards 8 to 10K months, and then I've got Simplified Mastermind for scaling beyond 10K months to 20, 30K months and beyond. So yeah, that's where they are. You can find me. I'm basically half live on Facebook. I'm easy to find, Sarah Leather. You'll see my profile photo of me holding my laptop. Send me a private message. I'll just say hi and point you in the right direction.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time and this generous insight, and so many gems and actionable little tips in here, and so many journaling prompts as well. So I'm going to have fun writing up the podcast notes, show notes around this, and doing some of the journaling prompts myself, I think. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Keri. This has been all the fun.
All right. See you later.